What's up, everybody? Welcome to Gamescast now, episode 34, topic 2. I'm Alex, and this is our conversational gaming show, a show where we talk about some of the biggest topics, some of the most trending things in the gaming industry. Now, normally we do that. For this week's topics, there hasn't really been anything that's broken in terms of the gaming. There's not any huge announcements that I necessarily feel like I want to cover. There's been some things, but not anything that's truly big or truly something in my wheelhouse. So on Monday's topic, we had talked about when I believe Spider-Man and Detroit Become Human are going to release. Those are huge, PS4 exclusive games. Definitely go check that video out if that interests you. But in this video, I wanted to do something kind of completely different, maybe completely out of left field, a topic that nobody is talking about anymore. It was a talk of the town for a little while, and it hasn't really been touched in a very long time. I want to talk about the Rocksteady Justice League game. Does it exist? Is it real? Is it coming? And we're going to just have a nice discussion about that and really what the future of Rocksteady is, and kind of talk about that. So these air every other week, Monday, Wednesday at 5 a.m. for your viewing convenience. So let's talk about this. There was, after the release of Arkham Knight, and even leading into the Batman PlayStation VR game, there was a lot of talk about what's next for Rocksteady. Now, obviously, there was a lot of stuff teased potentially in the Arkham Knight game, the actual Arkham Knight, released in 2015, about what is the future of their studio. So obviously we had kind of Easter eggs of Lex Luthor calling Batman or calling Bruce Wayne on the phone, leaving a message, talking about that kind of stuff, potentially with the introduction there of a Superman. Now, people have leapt to the conclusion, and they have jumped to it, that Justice League would be next up in their gaming department. Now, I do think that is in a way, a step that they could take, and a step that seems right for them to take. They've handled the Batman games, and they've handled Batman as a character extremely, extremely well, and they could continue to make them. Sure, we obviously have also had leaks and rumors that Arkham Insurgency, the game made by the makers of Batman Arkham Origins, is also, real and in development, and been in development for a very long time. I'll be very interested to see if one or both of these gets announced at E3. I honestly think both will. I think it was actually a prediction of mine going into E3 of 2017 that Arkham Insurgency would get announced, because that game is also very highly leaked. It's been leaked multiple times that it's real, and I really would love to play another Batman game, but that is from the studio that made Arkham Origins, commonly the frowned upon Batman game, even though I did enjoy it. I would say for sure it's the weakest of the four Arkham games, Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Knight. I do think Arkham Origins is the weakest of that batch, but that doesn't mean it's bad. Those three games are some of the best games, honestly, ever made. They're the best superhero games ever made, for absolute sure, but Arkham Origins is pretty darn up there as well. So that's what they're doing, but that has nothing to do with Rocksteady. Rocksteady, the makers of those three, the core Arkham games, they have been rumored to have been doing a Justice League game, or at least that's what people want them to do. And my question is it real, and is it coming? Well, it's been a long time since Arkham Knight released. It's been almost 3 years now. 3 years oftentimes is how long it takes a studio to make a new game. I do not think it's out of the question. I think it makes a lot of sense to announce it this year at E3, whatever their next game is, and have the release date, just have the announcement, or say 2019. I think it would probably come out. I don't think it's coming out in 2018 unless they pull like a Fallout kind of thing where they announce it and it comes out in a few months. However, they did kind of do that with Arkham Knight, where the game was supposed to come out rather early, and then it got delayed a very, very long time before it actually came out. It was supposed to come out, I believe, in October of 2014, and then it got pushed 9 months to that June, and it came out in June of 2015. So this game has been, there's been a lot of a break between that game and whatever they're doing now, and it seems like a Justice League game would be next up. However, is that the best idea, and how do they make, and that's kind of where I want to lead into now, how do they make a Justice League game, right? And obviously when this game gets announced, whatever the game is, and if it is a Justice League game, then there's even more to talk about, because then we have something to go off of, and we can say, well, what are they doing, and how is that going to work? But for now, all we can speculate is just kind of like the blueprints of like what a Justice League game would look like. Obviously, you'd have the Justice League, as many of them as you possibly could, I'd imagine. Problem being, I don't know how a Justice League game works, and I don't know how it works because of several characters in the Justice League. Now, I've been a person that has kind of gone on and off thinking that the DC characters, just who they are, even comic version, they're more interesting to me than the Marvel characters. Now, the Marvel movies, the Marvel characters we've gotten and we've seen on screen are miles better than almost all of the DC characters, if not all of them. But I do think there's more potential with the DC characters that they just have completely not realized in terms of the film. Gaming-wise, obviously, we've had quite a bit of success with the Batman games. We've had absolute failed success with Superman, and we've yet to see about new time Spider-Man. We've had old time Spider-Man. Some of them were good. Most of them weren't. I'd probably say it's like a 60-40, 70-30 in terms of good and bad Spider-Man games, or bad to good Spider-Man games, bad being the higher percent. But when it comes to Batman, I think the Batman games are the best superhero games ever created. So in terms of the gaming market, there's something there. However, it still is hard to make the rest of those DC characters into a game. How does Superman handle? How does Wonder Woman handle? And how does Flash handle? Those are probably the three hardest people to deal with because, again, people have tried to make just Superman games and they failed. People can't even make Superman games, and yet you want them, or it's rumored that they are making a Justice League game, meaning you'd be able to play as Superman, but that's not all. You also would play as everybody else. That seems extremely difficult to me, just in terms of how do you make that work? How do you hurt Superman? How do you hurt Wonder Woman? How do you hurt the Flash? How do you make it so that they're constrained in the world that you build? How do you make it so that Flash can't literally run around the planet like if I'm going around as Batman, am I going to be able to traverse the environment at the same speed the Flash is? That doesn't really make sense. It's tough. I feel like Flash, Superman, and Wonder Woman kind of sections are more, would be more like closed in, more cutscene oriented. Maybe more quick time event oriented where you limit what they can actually do. Maybe you wouldn't even play as them, which sounds stupid and sounds like that's not even a Justice League game, but I don't necessarily know, and you can't tell me that somebody has done it yet. I don't know how it would work. I don't know how somebody can actually make a game where that would work. Like, how do you hurt these characters? How do you make it so that they can't go across the playable map that you create as a gaming studio? How do you make it so they can't cross that map within 0.2 seconds? Like, how do you make that possible? How do you make it so they don't kill every enemy with one punch? Like Superman can kill people with one punch. How do you make enemies powerful to him, but also have them powerful to Aquaman? Do you have the ocean in this game? Can you go underwater? Green Lantern, like what do you do with him? Like what kind of possibilities are there with his ring? Like what can you create with it? There's a lot of questions. So I think the Justice League game is something that we kind of want. We want to kind of see if they can even do it, I think, is more the thing. It's never been done. We've gotten a taste of what Rocksteady can do, and we've gotten, a pretty fair selection of what they can do. And it's like people want more, and I get it. I'm actually one of those people. I think I do want a Justice League game, and I want to see them try it. But at the same time, literally at the same time, I'm not so sure about it because it comes with a lot of risks. The Batman games were good because they were pretty darn grounded. Firstly, they were very grounded games, very dark, very emotional, very, very character heavy. And just by having the Justice League in there in general, that immediately makes that tougher, right? Immediately makes it tougher because now you're including literal gods, literal like speedsters, all this kind of stuff. You're making it a lot harder. You're going to make it harder because we can't focus on one character. Is it going to be the Batman from the Arkham games, or is it going to be a new Batman? What kind of Batman are we getting? What version of all these characters are we getting just in general, not just Batman? But there's that. Then there's the fact, how do they fight? How do they play? The biggest part of Batman, Arkham, any game was its fighting. Its fighting was really, really good. Obviously, we've seen the Middle-earth games have the exact same fighting combat. That combat is so good. So good. It's so addicting. It's so perfect. It's honestly, I think, one of my favorite just gameplay mechanics and ways of handling the game in any game ever. That fighting mechanic, the blocking, the countering, all that stuff, the hitting, the quick hitting, even though it's a little bit comic-y, which is funny because it's kind of supposed to be, but even though it is a little bit, that does kind of break the groundedness when you're jumping around and you're going like 20 feet to throw like the one punch to continue your streak of hits. That's a little cheesy, but it's necessary and it makes it more fun and makes it more engaging. How do you do that with all of the characters? How do you tell a cohesive story with all of the characters? What world? Is this going to be in Gotham, or is this going to be in another city with one of the other heroes? Like, where is this going to take place? Who's the villain? The villains of the Batman games have also been pretty I mean, we had Joker 3 times, sure, but they've been different takes on villain. The first Joker was super awesome. In Arkham City, we had Hugo Strange, a villain that's not really mentioned much in Batman. He was pretty much a primary villain all throughout that game. And we had the secondary villains getting mixed in more and more throughout the 3 games, right? And the third game, it was pretty much Scarecrow, but we also had Red Hood. We also had the Joker. And we, again, had all of these different figures, all these different side, like Firefly and all these different side villains to Batman in the game. That was super awesome. If you have the Justice League, what do? Do you have one main villain? Do you have Darkseid? Do you have Steppenwolf? Do you kind of follow the movies in that way and use those characters? Like, who do you use as your main villain? And besides that, or do you pick maybe a Superman villain? Or do you pick the Joker and have the Joker be the villain for the entire Justice League? Like, what do you do? And then who are the side villains? Are the side villains mini villains of each superhero? That could work, but like, how does all this work? How does it all work? Is it open world? Is it like Batman Arkham games? Like, how is this going to work? I really want to know. I've been wanting to see something about this game, and really, they've kept it extremely, extremely quiet and extremely secretive, which I can actually respect because it's very hard. Other than like Naughty Dog or even Sony Santa Monica to a limited extent, but unless you're Naughty Dog, you pretty much are always in danger of having something leak and having your, especially if like your Ubisoft, your games are known 2 years before they're even like ready to go. So like there's leaks all throughout the gaming industry, and unless you're a very, very highly distinguished developer, normally things get out. And I'm actually proud of Rocksteady that nothing's really come out. People have speculated it could be Justice League. I don't even think it's more of that. I think people more or less want Justice League. I think it's more of people wanting Justice League than even there being any solid rumors of like concept art or people working at Rocksteady that left and wrote on their LinkedIn or something that they worked as an art director, things like that sometimes slip up that can give the title of a game or give what they're working on or something like that. There's really been nothing. It's more of speculation that this is what we want them to do, and it is. Because if they make another Arkham game, they're just kind of repeating themselves, right? They've proven it. They can tell a great story, great characters, great combat, everything. Great voice actors, everything. But now it's time to take it, let's evolve. Let's get to you could even argue they took steps back with Arkham Knight. Now, I loved Arkham Knight. I thought that game was really good. I'm not sure where it fits in. Those 3 games are very good games. They're literally, I think, almost all masterpieces. And so it's very hard for me to rank them. Yes, did they take steps back in certain departments in Arkham Knight? Like with the Batmobile. To an extent, I actually liked a lot of the Batmobile stuff, but they did make some mistakes. Not to say they didn't make improvements in a lot of other things, because they definitely did. I think people don't give them credit for that. But when you look at it like that, maybe you can say they've improved through all 3 games. They got to keep doing it, right? They have to challenge themselves and make a bigger and better game. And a Justice League game could be that. Now, that's just my speculation. They could come out with another Arkham game, and it could be miles ahead of whatever they've done in the past, and we can all say, oh, well, they did make improvements everywhere, and it's a even better game. But again, I think another studio is making Arkham Insurgency. I think we got the solo Batman game already in the works and completely fine. Now it's time for something new. It's time possibly for the Justice League. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think of this. Do you think a Justice League game is coming? Do you want one? And how should it play? What do you want the Justice League game to kind of be like? Let me know. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Podcast Now. Like and share this video, and thank you guys so much for watching Gamescast Now, episode 34. We will see you in 2 weeks for episode 35.